Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today I am going to go over my review of Monday Night Raw. Starting off, we have Dominic and Liv Morgan driving up to the arena in a lowrider. They're trying to walk to the arena, but they are interrupted by Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. They ended up fighting in backstage area, taking out a bunch of merchandise stuff backstage in the parking lot area, if you will. In the backstage part of the arena last night. Dominic and Liv finally enter the arena. Dominic and Liv Morgan make their way out to the ring. Liv Morgan has a segment, grabs a microphone. Liv says that Judgment Day run Raw. Liv says that she took everything away from Rhea, including Dominic Mysterio. After that, Rhea shows up. Rhea mocks Dominic as well as Liv Morgan. Liv then mocks Rhea Ripley. Rhea says that Dom will be in a shark cage during their match at Bad Blood. Definitely looking forward to this matchup between Rhea and Liv at Bad Blood for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. Moving on from that, we go into our first official match of the night. It is Sami Zayn versus Ludwig Kaiser. I thought it was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup. Zayn and Kaiser both exchanged in the middle of the ring, with Kaiser throwing Zayn into the barricade. Zayn then hits a powerbomb on Kaiser for a near fall. Zayn then hits an exploder suplex on Kaiser. Kaiser then gets up, hits an enziguri for a near fall. Zayn then hits a haluva kick in the corner on Kaiser. Pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Sami Zayn. After the match, Gunther comes out to the ring. Looks like he was teasing a match with Sami Zayn, but he still tells Sami no, that he will not defend the World Heavyweight title against Sami Zayn. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Dragon Lee versus Carlito. Kind of a grudge match, if you will. I thought it was a good match. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Lee and Carlito, with Lee keeping the pace of the match. Rey Mysterio comes out of nowhere, attacks Dominic Mysterio, which allowed Lee to hit the finish, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Dragon Lee. Hats off to Dragon Lee for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Miz versus Bronson Reed, but Braun Strowman quickly attacks Reed. The match never takes place between the Miz and Bronson Reed. Reed then hits a tsunami, taking out the security. Security then try to get into the ring, trying to stop Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. And later on in the night, it was announced from Adam Pearce that there will be a match, a last monster standing, if you will, between Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. Definitely looking forward to that matchup, because both Reed and Strowman have been tearing the house down, literally, on Monday Night Raw. Moving on from that, we have a Drew McIntyre segment. McIntyre comes out to the ring. He mocks CM Punk. Drew says that he's willing to risk it all against Punk in the cell. Drew says that his family as well has begged him to stop the war, if you will, with CM Punk, because it's pretty much making Drew a changed man. Drew then promises to destroy CM Punk, and telling CM Punk and the fans that he will be bleeding at Bad Blood. Definitely looking forward to that matchup and the Hell in a Cell matchup they're going to have at Bad Blood. Moving on from that, we go to our next match of the night. It's a tag team matchup. It is Isla Dawn and Alba Fire versus Damage Control. Thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Damage Control keeping the pace of the match. Kairi Sane hits an elbow to the outside, which allowed Io Shirai to hit a moonsault at the top rope. Pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are Damage Control. Hats off to Damage Control for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we have a vignette. A mystery vignette, if you will. And it looks to me that it's going to be the Viking Raiders, or Viking Warriors, or whatever the hell you want to call them now. Looks like they're going to be making their return back to Monday Night Raw. Definitely looking forward to that. It's going to be a great addition back to the tag team roster. Speaking of tag teams, we have the New Day versus the American Made. I thought it was a good match, back and forth matchup. New Day was keeping the pace of the match. Xavier Woods attacks Chad Gable, which allowed American Made to hit the finish. Pins for the 3. And your winners of the match are American Made. Hats off to American Made for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our main event on Monday Night Raw. It is Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental title. I thought it was a great match. It was a back and forth matchup between Jey and Braun, with Braun keeping the pace of the match. Braun then goes for a spear, but Jey counters it. Jey hits a spear through the barricade, taking out Braun Breaker. Jey then hits another spear, which allowed Jey to go up to the top rope, hit an Uso splash off the top rope, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and new Intercontinental Champion is main event Jey Uso. Couple of things I want to talk about, man, when it pertains to Monday Night Raw before I get the hell up out of here, man. Number one, was it a good show? Absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, for what it's worth, man, I was surprised that they took the title off Braun so quickly, to be honest with you. I thought Braun was going to hold on to that belt for quite a while. Am I upset with the decision to have Jey go over on Braun and become the new Intercontinental Champion? Absolutely not. To me, the body of work that Jey has put in, as far as his singles run career, he's immensely over with the fans. He's a humongous babyface, not only for WWE, but Monday Night Raw. It was a big deal. You know, Jey Uso has been around, I believe, with WWE for like 14 years, man, or something like that. He's been around for quite a while. And a lot of people remember Jey being a tag team with Jimmy. You know, and obviously the singles run has helped more for Jey than it has been Jimmy. But Jey's done a hell of a job. Jey's done a hell of a job, you know, reinventing himself, becoming main event Jey Uso. He's been in high-profile matches on Monday Night Raw. He's been in high-profile storylines on Monday Night Raw, especially with the Judgment Day and kind of on and off tag team with Sami Zayn. This is a big deal, man. This is a big milestone for Jey. You know, and to me, the Intercontinental title is that belt that can get you towards the World Heavyweight Championship. So I'm all for it, man. I think Jey definitely deserved to win that belt last night. I definitely don't think it's the last time we'll see Braun Breaker. Breaker, for what it's worth, man, you know, and I'm a big fan of the Steiners. Growing up as a kid, you know, I was a huge fan of the Steiners. But I got to say that, you know, Braun is kind of surpassing a little bit of what both those guys did individually in their singles run career, especially Rick and Scott. You know, Braun can have a hell of a singles run and have a Hall of Fame career for sure. Do I think this will be the last time we see Jey and Braun? I doubt it. To be honest with you, I'm surprised that we might not see something for Bad Blood, and we might. We might see a rematch for Bad Blood. I'm not sure, but it was well deserved, man. If anybody's out there that hates this decision for Jey winning that belt, I don't know what to tell you, man. I think it was a great decision. I think the build up towards this matchup. I mean, they had that great back and forth promo, if you will, between Braun and Jey last week on Monday Night Raw, which was fantastic. Absolutely great. Absolutely great. I mean, Braun, he shot some jabs at Jey. Jey, shot some jabs at Braun. It was great. It was absolutely great. The banner back and forth was awesome, and it was great build up towards this main event last night for Monday Night Raw between Jey Uso and Braun Breaker. So I'm all for it. Other things I want to talk about too, man, when it pertains to Monday Night Raw, it's a Judgment Day. And I mentioned this multiple times in the past when it pertains to Monday Night Raw that, you have your certain storylines, if you will, that is on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, there's Gunther and Sami Zayn, the Judgment Day, and Jey Uso. Those three conglomerates right there are the main features, if you will, on Monday Night Raw. Not saying that's a bad thing. Not saying that is a bad thing at all. But I will say this. I think the biggest thing with the Judgment Day, and they're going into Bad Blood. I think Damian has a match with Finn Balor, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, Liv has a match with Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Heavyweight title. The biggest thing I can say about the Judgment Day is what's going to happen next after the fallout with Rhea and Damian Priest. And the same thing goes for Damian Priest and, Rhea Ripley. How long is this going to drag out between the Judgment Day and the Terror Twins? That's my biggest thing. And how can they continue to make it more dynamic and make it more interesting as time goes on to keep building off of the original Judgment Day storyline? Which I'm all for it. I think the Judgment Day storyline and the Terror Twins, I think it's great. I think what Rhea is doing is fantastic. And, obviously we have this new Judgment Day with, Finn and JD McDonough and Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio and Carlito. I think it's great. I'm not sitting here saying that it's a bad stable. I'm not saying that at all. But I think, the biggest question out of that would be what's going to happen after the falling out, if you will, between the Judgment Day and the Terror Twins. The other thing I want to talk about is Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman, man. Strowman and Reed have been tearing the house down literally in every single arena that they've been in since this whole rivalry has happened between Reed and Strowman. And like I said earlier, Adam Pearce announced last night that it is going to be Strowman versus Reed in a last monster standing match, which I believe takes place next week. I'm all for it. I'm absolutely all for it, man. Reed has been on one hell of a rough shop as of late. He's taking out wrestlers such as Seth Rollins and R-Truth. They're on the shelf due to the amount of tsunamis that he has landed on R-Truth, especially Seth Rollins. and they are currently out of action right now. So obviously Reed is trying to put himself in the main event picture, man, and the only way that he thinks that he can do that is by decimating the Monday Night Raw roster, man. So who knows? It might have to be something where one monster is two monsters is too much for Monday Night Raw, and one of them had to go to SmackDown. Who knows? Who knows how this storyline is going to play out? But all in all, I'm all for it, man. I think the other thing I want to talk about too, man, quickly is Bad Blood. I think Bad Blood, from everything that I gathered and seeing that I think it's sold out, from what I understand, and it's sold out quickly. This PLE that's coming up, man, on I believe the 5th of October, Bad Blood in Atlanta, Georgia, is going to be insane. I think it's going to be nonstop action from top to bottom of the card. I think there's going to be a lot of high-profile matches. Obviously, we have Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns teaming up for the first time against Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. It's going to be a high-profile marquee matchup, man. And I think, they also touched bases on that last night for Monday Night Raw as well. So it's a big, big deal. Now you got Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. I believe you're going to have Nia Jax possibly versus Naomi or Bayley as well at Bad Blood. Stratton's walking around with that Money in the Bank briefcase. Will she cash in at Bad Blood? I don't know. There's a lot of questions going into Bad Blood that we still haven't got answers to yet. But I do think that Bad Blood PLE coming up is going to be incredible. I think it's going to be outstanding. I think it's definitely one of those events that I'm looking forward to. And it's actually one of those events that WWE ended up bringing back. This is one of the OG events, if you will. Not super, super OG. Not from way back in the day. But this was one of the events that WWE previously had. And then Hunter, brought this event back. And now it's in, from what I understand, possibly the rotation from here on out for PLEs for WWE, which I'm absolutely all for. It definitely will be a pay-per-view where you can settle all rivalries, if you will. Settle those lasting beefs at Bad Blood. Speaking of nostalgia, though, there's other things that I want to talk about as well. Is WWE announced that they're bringing back WWE Saturday Night's Main Event. This is a big deal, man. I believe the event will take place December 14th, live from Long Island, New York. I think it will be streamed on NBC or Peacock or whatever. Now, this is a big deal, man. If you guys are wrestling fans like I am, and you guys go back as far as I do with pro wrestling, not that I'm, super, super old, but I do remember, watching, with my grandparents and hearing about, from my grandparents talking about, did you watch, they watched NBC back in the day with Saturday Night Live Main Event, and they had matches with Warrior and Randy Savage and stuff like that. So it was a big, big deal. And for WWE to bring this back, I think it's great. For me personally, I'm a big nostalgia guy. Always have been, always will be. And to bring back these events into the limelight now and let fans that are new fans understand this, how symbolic these events are, like, WWE Saturday Night's Main Event and what it means for the business and what it means for professional wrestling. I think it's great for the younger generation to understand, these different events. For example, WWE bringing back Bad Blood, and, a lot of the younger fan base now have no idea what that pay-per-view even was, or, the fact that WWE once had that pay-per-view back in the day, or especially, Saturday Night's Main Event. A lot of fans, especially younger fans nowadays, have no idea about those events, and those events were symbolic. You had Piper, Hogan, Warrior, Savage, a part of the Saturday Night's Main Event cards, and for the fact that WWE and Triple H are bringing it back, it's great, man. And right around the holiday season, right around, the Christmas season, it's great. I believe it's December 14th, live from Long Island, New York. It's going to be great, man. I think, this is something where, other wrestling companies that are out there, and who they are, AEW and TNA, I would love for people to pull out the nostalgia act. You know what I mean? I know that, I'm a big WCW guy. I told you guys that from before. That I wish that WWE brought in some, old school WCW pay-per-views like Super Brawl or Slamboree or Sold Out or Road Wild or something like that. You know what I mean? To bring back the nostalgia, because those events were symbolic in pro wrestling, whether you like WCW or not. And it's something that works, and I think it's great, man. I think bringing in Saturday Night's Main Event, I think it's great. Having it on, I believe, a Saturday, December 14th. It's going to be awesome, man. And it's not like WWE right now doesn't have the talent. They absolutely have the talent. Do I think Cody Rhodes will be on the card? He should be. Roman, possibly. It should be a big, big deal. And, it's something that hopefully they continue to keep doing. And it's something to bring more eyes on the product, man. And for what it's worth, this is exactly what I was telling you guys when I did my SmackDown review. That it was one of those things where they're firing on all cylinders, man. You got these PLEs that are across the country and bringing in more fans to the fan base, or bringing in more independent talent, bringing in more free agents. A lot of shit's going to go down in pro wrestling here for the next couple months going into the new year for sure. I mean, if you look at just from WWE or even AEW, I mean, AEW just signed a humongous TV deal. And now that, they signed this TV deal, now it looks like they're going to have their PLEs or pay-per-views, if you will, on HBO Max and put more content on HBO Max. I'm all for it. I've been screaming from the rooftops for a while now for AEW to put on their pay-per-views for HBO Max. It gets more eyeballs on the product, and it helps the fan base out too that are already subscribed to HBO Max, or people that are AEW fans that are not currently signed on to HBO Max. They will now be a part of the HBO Max family, and they'll subscribe, and it's a win-win from, obviously the people over there in Warner Brothers Discovery, as well as AEW and TNA, or AEW and then Tony Khan. It's a win-win. It's an absolute win-win, and I'm not sitting here saying that AEW is in the same seat, if you will, as WWE. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But, just from what I've seen alone for the main roster there, man, it's incredible. I mean, I can go back just even this past SmackDown, and I praised the hell out of the promo and the segment, if you will, between Cody and Roman. I thought it was great. I thought it was well organized, very articulate, very, very well put together. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Paul Heyman had a lot to do with producing that angle between Cody and Roman at the Georgia Tech football stadium. If that's the case, then my hats go off to Paul Heyman. I think it was put together beautifully between Roman and Cody. A lot of nostalgia there, obviously, between Roman and Cody, being the fact that they, obviously Roman played his collegiate football career in Georgia. And, Cody Rhodes is also from the great state of Georgia. So, obviously, there's that ties there between Roman and Cody. And I mentioned that when I did my SmackDown review. So, WWE is doing everything they possibly can, which is incredible, by the way, to keep you still invested in this Bloodline storyline that's been going on now for like 2-3 years, which is absolutely impressive. With new additions with Jacob Fatu, I know Hikuleo is supposed to be with NXT. And I believe he's the younger brother of Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. And he's a giant, man. The guy is probably like 7 foot tall, man. He's a giant. So, I mean, obviously they're putting things in motion to finish off this story once and for all with the Bloodline, man. And it's going to be absolutely incredible, to be honest with you. And for what it's worth, and I can say this with confidence, and I might be on this hill by myself, and that's fine. This storyline here with the Bloodline, even though we're talking about Monday Night Raw here, but I just want to say, with the storyline with the Bloodline alone, this is something, if it came down to it, that if I was Roman Reigns, you can ride off in the sunset and call it a day. Because at this point, just looking at Roman's career as a whole right now, I mean, there's nothing much more for this guy to do. I mean, he has done it all in WWE, from, tag team champions to WWE Universal Champion, holding 2 belts, breaking records, being part of high-profile matches, main eventing WrestleManias. He's done it all, and Roman, whatever happens or whatever is the outcome of this Bloodline storyline, the end of it, absolutely. If Roman was like, I'm going to go to a part-time schedule from here on out, yeah. Because there's nothing else more left for this guy to do, man. I mean, Roman, for all intents and purposes, Roman could be on, not the way out, but the way out of a full-time contract. I mean, I know he's more part-time now, but this could be something where he becomes more part-time, more like a John Cena or Dwayne The Rock Johnson kind of deal. Eventually. I can totally see that, because there's nothing much more for Roman to do. Do I think Roman's going anywhere? Absolutely not. Roman is WWE bona fide. He ain't going a damn place. Just like Cody. Cody's not going nowhere, man. His bread is buttered in WWE. There were some people that I talked to like, oh yeah, Cody's going to drop the belt eventually. He's going to go back to AEW. Bullshit. He ain't going back to... For what? What is left for him to do in AEW? Nothing. Tony Khan didn't strike the iron where the iron was hot. And on top of that, Cody already wanted to get the hell out of AEW as it was, because Cody wanted to win the title that his father never won. He wanted to win the World Heavyweight title. The WWE Championship. And the fact that if you look at Cody right now as an overall product right now for WWE, I mean, he is golden right now. I mean, he's carrying that World Heavyweight Championship around his waist. WWE's putting that company on his back right now as an ambassador and someone to, that you could look at as far as, okay, hey, that guy's a WWE wrestler. This guy's carrying his company on his back. He's representing WWE top to bottom. And I told you guys before, when it pertains to Cody Rhodes, if anybody had their own wrestling company, that's the guy that you put the company on the back of. Is Cody Rhodes, because he's a smart businessman. He knows the business. He's a very intelligent guy. He's a great in-ring worker. And he does right by the fans. And I think that was the other thing, too, that also hindered him in AEW, is I feel like a lot of the fans at that time in AEW wanted him to turn heel. And Cody Rhodes is a babyface, man. You can just tell. It'd be very hard to see that guy turn heel. It could happen. It could happen at Bad Blood. We don't know. And like I told you guys when I did my SmackDown upload, that there could be a possible heel turn, with Cody. There could be something with Cody. There could be something with Roman. We don't know yet. The other wild card in that whole situation is Kevin Owens, but especially when it pertains to Cody Rhodes. Is Owens going to turn heel and attack Cody Rhodes? Especially after this long friendship that they've had since Cody's been with WWE. We don't know. Owens can definitely be the wild card and, the shakeup, if you will, and just pretty much decimate this entire thing that's going on right now between Cody and Roman. In Owens' defense, we didn't even get Owens' take on how he really genuinely felt after seeing that, that segment between Rhodes and Roman at the Georgia Tech Dome. He was interrupted by the Bloodline and attacked by the Bloodline. So we don't really have Owens' take on really how he feels about what happened there between Rhodes and Reigns. We have no idea. Now, do I think Owens is due for a heel turn? Hell yeah. Absolutely. Because, even at this point, again, what's left for Owens? Even at this point, a lot of people are saying that, his contract's coming up at the end of the year, and that Tony Khan, and I said this myself, that Tony Khan is going to throw a lot of money at Kevin Owens, and he's going to. Absolutely. Due to the fact that, obviously, Tony Khan has a lot of ties to Ring of Honor, and Kevin Owens, a.k.a. Kevin Steen, used to wrestle for Ring of Honor. He was a big deal at Ring of Honor at one point, so I know that Tony Khan's going to watch his contract like a hawk, and if he remains a free agent and tests the free agency market, Tony Khan's going to back up the Brinks truck to his front yard and make sure that he can afford anything that Kevin Owens asks to bring Owens over to AEW. But again, do I think he'll leave? No, man. I think Owens to me is a lifer for WWE. I told you guys this, when I did my SmackDown review, I'd be very surprised if we see a guy like Kevin Owens walk through that door in AEW. I would see Shane McMahon walk through that door right now before Kevin Owens, and Shane can show up at Grand Slam. And that's the other thing that I wanted to talk about, even though this is Monday Night Raw, that Grand Slam's coming up. Obviously, I think last year's Grand Slam, we had the debut of Saraya. Are we going to get a debut at Grand Slam? Are we going to get Bobby Lashley? Are we going to get Shane McMahon finally showing his face on national television for another wrestling company that's not WWE? Who knows? There's going to be a lot of shit going on come Dynamite, man. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be really happy with the show. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be pissed off with AEW Dynamite, especially when it pertains to Grand Slam, because there's no build and there's no storyline. And I'm going to probably be one of those people in that crowd that are kind of pissed off due to the fact that there's no build. And I'm mainly pissed off because of the Bryan Danielson situation, because we have no idea what's going on. Nigel McGuinness is acting like one of those people that never got their Christmas gift that they ever wanted, and finally he's just getting his revenge on it and is pissed off at Bryan Danielson because he didn't get, his special gift in the damn mail or on Christmas. That's what it feels like. It's pathetic. You want to revamp a rivalry that happened about 15, 16 years ago. It doesn't make sense logically, but I will say this. For what it's worth, do I think Grand Slam is going to be a dud? No. It's a 2-night event. You got Grand Slam for Dynamite and you got Grand Slam for Collision. Do I think it's going to be a complete dud? No. But it would help if they had some story and some build leading up to Grand Slam, which AEW does not. And it's ultimately going to hinder their show on Dynamite. But besides all that AEW shit, we're here for Monday Night Raw. And I'm sorry I got off topic, but at the end of the day, man, like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record here. But the truth's the truth, man. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything, and I'm not going to bullshit anybody. At the end of the day, Monday Night Raw and SmackDown are firing on all cylinders. You can see from the ratings, you can see from sold out, ticket sales. Hell, I think Raw last night had 9,600 people, and that was sold out. According to Joe Tessitore, which by the way is a great addition to the commentary team of Monday Night Raw. Him doing commentary alongside Wade Barrett. I think it's a great addition to Monday Night Raw. He does a fantastic job. And like I said, it's a great addition to have Joe Tessitore part of the commentary team for Monday Night Raw. But like I said, man, there's really nothing I can say that's going to be super, super bad about Raw or SmackDown right now. I mean, SmackDown, Christ, man, SmackDown was a goddamn cinema last week. Just with the Rhodes and Reigns segment. I mean, it was a damn movie, man, the way they put that together. And it was clean, crystal clean, from top to bottom. So I have nothing to say at all about SmackDown. And for Monday Night Raw last night, man, I can't really say anything. I mean, am I shocked that Jay beat Braun? Yeah, a little bit. But am I going to sit here and be, oh, man, that's bullshit. That pisses me off. No, man. Jay has worked his ass off to get to this point. You know, and it's tough. I mean, you got to understand, man. If you're a pro wrestling fan, you got to understand that, you know, a lot of these tag teams, and we can go back all the way to WCW to early WWE, man. It's very hard for these individuals, once they break away from that tag team, to have any kind of singles run, man. And usually sometimes it works out for one, not the other, and sometimes it doesn't work out for any. And they're better off staying a tag team. I mean, if you look at Harlem Heat, you know, Booker T and Stevie Ray, obviously it paid off immensely for Booker T, but it didn't really do shit for Stevie Ray. Now, as a tag team, they are a predominant force, man. Booker T and Stevie Ray as Harlem Heat, dominant tag team. You look at the Steiners, which I mentioned earlier. You look at Scott and Rick Steiner. Scott, you know, went solo, had his own singles career, and it wasn't half bad. You know, he became WCW World Heavyweight Champion, and they were really pushing Scott towards the end of the tenure of WCW. Rick, on the other hand, Rick was, you know, mid-card maybe at best. You know, and Rick kind of salvaged his career a little bit over in Japan, but Rick really wasn't doing shit in the States, where Scott was. You know, a lot of those tag teams, man, it's really, really hard. You know, you look at, hell, tag teams like Doom, where you got Butch Reed and Ron Simmons, where, you know, Ron had, you know, they both had a singles career, and then obviously Ron and Butch Reed ended up forming a tag team as Doom. And I think Doom was underrated. I think Butch Reed and Ron Simmons were severely underrated. But again, you know, it's one of those things where it kind of worked out for both. I mean, maybe more for, you know, Ron Simmons, but it's not like Butch Reed didn't have a solid singles run career in the early days. You know, it's the way it works. You can look back at the Soul Patrol, man. You look at Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson, and I was a huge fan of that. My dad alone was a huge fan of the Soul Patrol back in the day, and you know, both those guys could have been single stars and really done well for themselves. I think it really paid out for Tony Atlas. Obviously, not so much for Rocky Johnson, but again, as a tag team, they're a predominant force. You know what I mean? Some tag teams have to stay together. You know, you look at Alpha and Sika, you know, the Wild Samoans. Again, when you look at both of them, even individually, you're always going to think, oh, man, that's the Wild Samoans. You know, it was going to be really hard for either one of them to have a singles run. You know, and at that time, I believe they were actually being managed by Captain Lou Albano. So, I mean, again, you had that mouthpiece with Lou Albano, and then the Wild Samoans was just going there and just beating the shit out of everybody, you know? It just doesn't work like that. So for Jay to do what he did last night, I mean, my hat's off to Jay, you know, really. And like I said, it works out for some tag teams, and some tag teams, it doesn't happen. I mean, I couldn't imagine a tag team like Public Enemy. God rest, you know, Rocco Rock and stuff like that, and Public Enemy, man, rest in peace of those guys. But I couldn't see them going on a singles run. It just wasn't going to happen, man. Nobody was going to push those guys to the moon, especially not only as a tag team, but on a singles run. Just wasn't going to happen, you know. And some tag teams, they're meant to stay together, and some are not. So for Jay, yeah, I was ecstatic for Jay getting the win over Braun Breaker last night, because it's a immense milestone to get over, man. If you really think about it, from coming into WWE as a tag team and a predominant tag team. I mean, you're talking about the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, that will go in there and whoop your ass, and they got the championship titles to prove it. So it's hard to really separate yourself from that conglomerate of what they had. And then especially dealing with what they had with the Bloodline originally to what Jay's doing now. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due, man. Jay, like I said, Jay has worked his ass off. He deserves his opportunity, and he deserves to have singles gold around his waist, man. And that's why he's the Intercontinental Champion, and he beat Braun Breaker last night for that Intercontinental title. And if anybody has a problem with that, I don't know what the hell to tell you, man, because to me, he deserves it. Was I shocked? Yes. Again, I will reiterate, I was surprised that they had Jay go over, but am I pissed off with the decision? No, man. Hell no. Absolutely not. You know, right? I mean, and my thing is, Christ, man, even if we look at Jay right now, I mean, there's not even you look. I mean, initially they were supposed to have a tag team with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, and I think that just had a fallen out. Now you have Jey, the Intercontinental Champion, and Sami Zayn desperately trying to get the attention of Gunther to get an opportunity at Gunther's World Heavyweight title. And Gunther keeps telling him no. So I don't think that tag team here between Zayn and Jey is going to happen anytime soon. But again, it also leaves questions open for the bloodline, for Roman. Because I don't know if Jey is going to go back over and join Roman. I think right now what Jey's doing just on his singles run, I just don't think he fits the mold right now of what Roman's doing with, his bloodline. So like I said, when it comes to Bad Blood next weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend, it's going to be interesting, man. There's going to be a lot of questions that are going to have to be answered, and some questions that we're going to have after the show, like what the hell is going on here, what's next? But is it going to be a damn good show? Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to Bad Blood. But with that being said, this is my review of Monday Night Raw. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful and